Now, up next, a Bloomberg exclusive with the youngest central bank chief in the world. As tensions in Eastern Europe grow, we'll be live with the head of the National Bank of Georgia. Welcome back. You're watching The Pulse. We are live from London, right here on Bloomberg TV. Let's head to Ukraine. The government in Kiev and pro-Russian rebels are once again trading accusations of ceasefire violations. This after they agreed to create a buffer zone to strengthen the pact behind those ceasefire negotiations. We sent Ryan Chilcott to the front line. He now reports from what is effectively a new front line in Ukraine.
You could forgive the soldiers outside this town in eastern Ukraine for failing to be friendly. The last time strangers made an appearance, the locals say they came with 100 tanks. This frontline city was saved by the ceasefire. Mariupol is in Ukraine's industrial heartland, and this is steel country. That there plant is owned by Ukraine's richest man. Nearly 50,000 people toil round the clock at just two of Rinat Akhmetov's plants in Mariupol. This one plant can produce a quarter of all Ukraine's steel exports, enough to make 100 aircraft carriers. But production has nearly halved thanks to shortages of the coal that comes from rebel-held territory. Some of the steel now makes the anti-tank obstacles at the checkpoints. Akhmetov's appeal to his workers not to join the rebels is credited with keeping at least some of the East under Kiev's control. $500 a month pay for a steelworker is good money here. Many of his factories on the other side of the front have shut.
Люди волнуются насчет того, что будет дальше.
Ну, конечно, волнуются. Это ж все волнуются за своих родственников, за близких. Непонятно, что завтра будет. То есть у всех неопределенность сейчас. Люди находятся в таком неопределенном состоянии.
Factory workers also take part in police patrols to maintain order. They're not equipped to stop an invading army. During our short visit, one checkpoint was shelled, 3 Ukrainian soldiers wounded, another 3 suspected separatists arrested. More than anywhere, Mariupol is keeping its eye on the truce. What happens in this frontline town matters far beyond its borders. Ryan Chilcott, Bloomberg, Mariupol, Ukraine.
Ryan Chilcott, great reporting there. If you want to see more of it, go to Bloomberg.com. Ryan saying there what matters in that part of the world has a big impact elsewhere in the world. So let's bring you a Bloomberg exclusive now. We're joined by the governor of Georgia's central bank, Giorgi Kadagidze. Good morning. Welcome. Very nice to see you. What happens there matters to you in what way?
Well, first of all, it's my pleasure to be here. Secondly, we have gone through that in 2008. In 2006, Russia was the largest trade partner of Georgia. Yep. And in one day, it just disappeared after the embargo of Georgian exports and imports. So it was hard, but today we are in a much more healthier situation than many other countries, unfortunately, in the region. So, of course, the conflict in Ukraine will affect the whole region, definitely.
Yep. Is it slowing your economy down?
Not right now. We had a forecast of 5% growth this year, and most likely we'll have a little bit over 5%, and we have the plan to have the growth of 6% next year. But definitely, it's very hard to predict now what's going to happen next because it's so close, and I doubt that there is any country in the region which will not be affected directly. We are a little bit luckier because we don't have direct trade, and our dependence on Russia is almost none.
Does the sanctions story on Russia kind of create a ripple effect, though, that works its way out? As goods are denied access into that market, did they find other homes? As you say, despite the separation that has happened, there is a level of interconnectedness that still exists.
Well, definitely. One thing that I can say is that uncertainty is the biggest issue now, because even with the sanction, even with the mentioning the SWIFT switch off and international settlements, nobody really knows how it will work in real life. And the big question mark right now is uncertainty among all the players, because basically I'm receiving calls from the commercial banks, how it will look like, should we stop the corresponding accounts and all this. I mean, today with a very global economy, everything is very integrated. So.
You talk about that, and one of the things that you first think about is the possibility of further escalation of sanctions and the possibility of those sanctions being applied to the SWIFT system, which is the key mechanism which global banks operate to connect themselves to each other. You have remittances, you have all kinds of relationships that still exist with Russia. How would those be effective if that system were to be turned off?
Nobody knows, to be very honest, because in today's world, to totally close financial system is very, very hard, if not impossible. And yes, we have remittances from Russia. This is the largest dependence that Georgia has, but remittances take place not only through banking system, but mainly through the different systems that operate, like Western Union and all this stuff.
So you could cope with this? This would...
Definitely, yeah, because what will happen, basically, they will switch off to other banks other than the Russian banks, where they do the netting, basically. And I can't imagine the remittances stopped.
Have you planned for it? Have you modeled for it? Have you figured out what would happen if that were to be the case? Because as you say, remittances are a big chunk of money.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we do plan. We do different kind of stress test scenarios. But this kind of sanction will basically have a huge amount of effect on the Russian economy itself, but on the economies like Georgia, which does not really have a lot of dependence. We are relatively in a good shape.
Geographically, you are quite interesting in as much as you sit between Turkey and Russia, and Turkey has aspirations to be an energy hub. Given the increasing tension within the region, are your expectations for how you develop economically and take advantage of the geographical situation that you have being put on the back burner a little bit more?
Definitely. The whole idea of Georgian economy, as we see it in the future to develop, is to build a hub economy. Basically, 5 neighboring countries are landlocked. It's Armenia and Azerbaijan, our neighboring countries, and another 4 Central Asian countries are also landlocked. So basically, to use Georgia as a corridor for their trade is, of course, the main idea.
Is that being hurt by what is happening? Are your plans being slowed down?
No, definitely, the whole reforms that have taken place for the last 10 years, which had a tremendous effect on Georgian economy, had that in mind. We have built the country with very low taxes, very liberal environment, no capital controls, and basically totally free market-driven economy, especially for that purpose, to turn it to the hub economy so that region-wise, Georgia becomes a logistics hub, touristic hub, cultural hub, and so on.
But if the situation carries on getting worse, if the ruble, the volatility, the Russian economy is a big part of this part of the world. You can't ignore it. It is slowing down. It's slowing down fairly dramatically. How are your models being affected by that? If you project where we are now and the rate of deceleration we're seeing in the Russian economy, the impact that is having on the ruble, are you having to go back and think again? You're saying you're not doing that, but a year from now, the situation could look significantly worse from here.
Well, definitely, as I already mentioned, there will be effect. But to be honest, I think that if countries will follow up in that region, emerging markets, follow up with the structural reforms, they will compensate a lot.
Okay.
We have gone through that in 2006 when the forecast was that we would have the double-digit contractions after the collapse of trade with Russia, but due to the very, very strong reforms that our country carried out, we managed to have the growth without economic dependence on Russian market.
Just one final question question, Giorgi. You have a relationship with the head of the central bank in Ukraine. You guys talk. What does she tell you about how difficult the situation is? As a central banker, how much information, knowledge do you guys share? How much advice can you give her about the lessons that were learned from your economy? Well, definitely we all support Ukraine in all possible ways that we can, especially with our experience that we had. Situation is not good. The newly appointed governor understands the situation very well. She has a plan that she wants to implement, but huge amount of a lot will depend on the international organizations like IMF, World Bank, and other stakeholders that need to support the Ukrainian central bank as of today. It's very crucial that the banking system will be saved and should be saved and then reformed in a way that helps the further development of the country. Giorgi, nice to see you. Thank you very much indeed for stopping by to see us.
Thank you very much.
Giorgi Kadagidze, the governor of the National Bank of Georgia.